Where is Iran's uranium? Questions abound after U.S. strikes. After President Donald Trump bragged U.S. strikes had obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities, officials cautioned it was still too soon to assess the impact on the country's nuclear program. Many questions remain after Sunday's strikes, especially about the whereabouts of Iran's sensitive stockpile of uranium enriched to 60%, a short step from the 90% required for a nuclear weapon. Where is Iran's enriched uranium? That is an important question. The U.S. attacks, carried out by B-2 stealth bombers, targeted 3 Iranian nuclear sites: Isfahan and Iran's main enrichment plants in Fordo and Natanz. While significant damage has been reported, the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, has voiced concern about Iran's stockpile of near-weapons-grade uranium. Tehran has an estimated 408.6 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60%, according to the UN nuclear watchdog, whose inspectors last saw that stockpile on June 10. That material, if further refined, would theoretically be sufficient to produce more than 9 nuclear bombs. IAEA head Rafael Grossi on Monday demanded access to Iran's nuclear sites, saying the agency needs to account for the uranium stockpile. Concerns about the fate of the sensitive stockpile have loomed large. On June 13, the day Israel began its Iran offensive, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi sent a letter to the IAEA, announcing the implementation of special measures to protect nuclear equipment and material. Days before the U.S. attacked, satellite imagery showed vehicles near Fordo's entrance. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel had interesting intelligence on the matter, declining to elaborate. Israel announced Monday it had carried out strikes to block access routes to Fordo. It will be difficult, if not impossible, to track down all of Iran's 60% enriched uranium, stored in small canisters that are easily transportable by car, Kelsey Davenport, an expert with the Arms Control Association, told AFP. The Iranians no longer have the capacity to turn that stockpile of highly enriched uranium to weapons-grade uranium, and that was really the goal there, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance told Meet the Press. He added the Trump administration would deal with the uranium in the coming weeks. Another question: can Iran still make a nuclear bomb? Analysts have been treading carefully when addressing this issue. Before the attacks, Iran had about 22,000 centrifuges, the machines used to enrich uranium. Many of them were damaged when Natanz was hit, the IAEA head said. Grossi also said very significant damage is expected to have occurred at Fordo, given the explosive payload utilized and the extreme vibration-sensitive nature of centrifuges. Experts, however, say that it is unclear how many centrifuges Iran has, with some of them believed to be stored at unknown locations. With 60% enriched uranium and a few hundred advanced centrifuges, Iran still has the capability to weaponize, and now there is more political impetus to dash for a bomb, said Davenport. When examining what the risks of spread are before the conflict, the IAEA said it had no indication of the existence of a systematic program in Iran to produce a nuclear weapon. But without access to nuclear sites, the agency no longer has oversight. Grossi warned Monday that the global non-proliferation regime that has underpinned international security could crumble and fall, urging parties to return to diplomacy. Iran ratified the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, in 1970, committing it to declare its nuclear material to the IAEA. But it has recently begun preparing the grounds for a possible withdrawal from the treaty, accusing the agency of acting as a partner in Israel's war of aggression. Reza Najafi, Iran's ambassador to the IAEA, said Monday the unlawful act of aggression by the United States had delivered a fundamental and irreparable blow to the non-proliferation regime. I do think there is a major risk that Iran withdraws from the NPT and expels inspectors, or simply does not provide them with access to key sites, said Eric Brewer of the U.S. Research Institute Nuclear Threat Initiative (NTI). He added that Iran could also, over time, build a covert program like North Korea, which withdrew from the NPT in 2003 and went on to become a nuclear-armed power. The location of the now fully processed 480 kilograms of enriched uranium and the possibility of its being used in nuclear weapons are of concern to everyone.
The International Atomic Energy Agency has lost track of 400 kilograms of enriched uranium inside Iran, and Tehran is refusing to cooperate. Iran's parliament passed a bill suspending collaboration with the IAEA, just hours after US and Israeli airstrikes pummeled key Iranian nuclear facilities. The suspension effectively shuts out the UN nuclear watchdog from Iranian sites, prompting dire warnings from IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi and heightening fears that Iran's nuclear program is now beyond international oversight. Grossi, speaking before the IAEA Board of Governors in Vienna, called for immediate re-entry into the bombed facilities to verify stockpiles and assess structural damage.
We must return to the negotiating table, and for that, allow IAEA inspectors, the guardians on our behalf of the NPT, to go back to Iran's nuclear sites and account for the stockpiles of uranium, including, most importantly, 400 kilograms enriched to 60%.
His appeal came amid fresh Israeli missile strikes on Iranian military locations in Tehran and other cities. Iran has responded with cross-border weapons fire, pushing the crisis into a dangerous new phase. Grossi confirmed that IAEA teams have lost access to crucial sites and data, especially regarding Iran's most sensitive stockpiles.
My job is to try to see where is this material, because Iran has an obligation to report and account for all the material that they have, and this is going to continue to be my work.
At the center of concern, 400 kN of uranium enriched to 60%, far above the 3.67% allowed under the 2015 nuclear deal, and dangerously close to weapons-grade threshold. Grossi also cited US intelligence and satellite images showing large craters at the Fordow nuclear facility, Iran's most advanced enrichment site.
Craters are now visible at the Fordow site, Iran's main location for enriching uranium at 60%, indicating the use of ground-penetrating munitions. This is consistent with statements from the United States. At this time, no one, including the IAEA, is in a position to have fully assessed the underground damage at Fordow. Given the explosive payload utilized and the extreme vibration-sensitive nature of centrifuges, very significant damage is expected to have occurred.
The extent of the US strikes also hit Esfahan and Natanz. At Esfahan, cruise missiles targeted tunnel entrances used to store enriched uranium. At Natanz, bunker-busting bombs struck Iran's fuel enrichment plant, a critical hub for centrifuge operations.
There are many reasons why Israel targets Iran. First, Iran has been a key force in all the Arab wars with Israel over the centuries. Second, Iran has been the mother of all the Islamic terrorists living and dead for centuries. Third, Iran has been the powerhouse and source of weapons for the Hamas terrorists who launched attacks on Israel from land, sea, and air in 2023, killing hundreds and kidnapping many more. Fourth, Iran sponsors many terrorist organizations, including Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Palestine, Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq, the Zainab Brigade in Pakistan, the Fatimid Division in Afghanistan, Saria al-Ashtar in Bahrain, Hezbollah al-Hijaz in Saudi Arabia, and many others. Despite the fact that they are mere terrorist organizations without any military equipment, and despite Israel's strong counterattacks, the reason behind the continuation of the war is that Iran is the source of the terrorist weapons and other supplies. Sixth, Iran's unholy alliance with terrorist organizations, contrary to the interests of the country, prevents Iran from using strategic weapons. At the same time, while neutralizing Iran's deadly weapons, it is also necessary to remember a people who are peace-loving and God-fearing.